Days before my 25th birthday, I knew my sister would make something up to make my parents furious with me and completely ruin my celebration. It was a pattern as predictable as the changing of the seasons. Whenever the spotlight even threatened to shift in my direction for a fraction of a second, my younger sister, Chloe, would suddenly experience a mysterious crisis, a fabricated tragedy, or a dramatic victimhood narrative that demanded my parents' undivided attention. But this time was different. This time, I was turning 25. I had just bought my first house entirely on my own, and I was hosting a massive milestone celebration. The stakes were higher than they had ever been, and I knew Chloe's retaliation would be biblical. I just didn't expect the twisted, almost psychopathic lie she was about to spin. What she didn't realize, however, was that I had finally stopped playing the victim. I was 10 steps ahead of her, and her little stunt was about to systematically destroy her entire perfect world. To truly understand the sheer magnitude of the betrayal I was bracing myself for, you have to understand the deeply broken, toxic dynamic of my family. For as long as I can remember, I have been the designated family scapegoat, while Chloe was the undisputed, untouchable golden child. I am 3 years older than her, but you would never know it by the way we were treated growing up. My achievements were brushed under the rug, treated as mere baseline expectations rather than actual accomplishments, while Chloe was celebrated for simply breathing. When I graduated high school with top honors and earned a full-ride scholarship to a prestigious university, my parents didn't even take me out for a celebratory dinner. Why? Because Chloe, who was 15 at the time, had just gone through a devastating breakup with her boyfriend of 3 weeks, and she supposedly needed my parents to stay home and comfort her. When I received my college degree, my parents left the commencement ceremony early, right before my name was called, because Chloe was complaining that her feet hurt, and she was feeling overwhelmed by the crowds. Chloe is one of those deeply insecure people who is pathologically allergic to not being the absolute center of the universe. She is a beautiful, charismatic manipulator who learned early on that crocodile tears were a highly valuable currency in our household. My parents, for their part, were entirely complicit in creating this monster. They coddled her, funded her lavish lifestyle, and made endless, exhausting excuses for her toxic behavior. She's just sensitive. You know how she gets, my mother would say, batting away any valid criticism of Chloe's selfish actions. You need to be the bigger person and be more understanding. You're the older sister. My father would routinely chime in, effectively shutting down any attempt I made to defend myself. By the time I turned 22, I had officially had enough. I stopped seeking their validation because I realized it was a well that had run completely dry. I moved out into a tiny, rundown, cramped apartment, worked 2 grueling jobs, and saved every single penny I could manage. I built a thriving career in digital marketing from the ground up, working 70-hour weeks and sacrificing my social life to ensure my financial independence. I didn't ask my parents for a single dime during this time, largely because I knew they wouldn't have given it to me anyway. They were too busy paying off Chloe's constantly maxed out credit cards and funding her delusional influencer lifestyle, which consisted mostly of taking heavily edited photos in expensive cafes and contributing absolutely nothing to society. Now, I was approaching my 25th birthday. Through relentless hard work, sleepless nights, and strict budgeting, I had finally saved enough to put a substantial down payment on a beautiful 4-bedroom house in a highly sought-after, quiet suburban neighborhood. I was incredibly proud of myself. For the first time in my life, I wanted to celebrate my achievements out loud, without apologizing for taking up space. I planned a massive birthday and housewarming party combined into one lavish evening. I hired a fantastic caterer, bought gorgeous decorations, and invited all my supportive friends, my amazing colleagues, and, against my better judgment, my parents and Chloe. I knew it was a massive risk. I knew inviting them was basically handing Chloe a loaded weapon, but a small, foolish, inner child part of me still hoped that maybe, just this once, my parents would actually show up for me and be proud of the woman I had become. As the week of my birthday rapidly approached, the anxiety began to set in heavily. The silence from my family was absolutely deafening. My mother wasn't calling to ask how the party planning was going. My father wasn't offering to come over and help me move heavy furniture. Chloe was completely off the radar. She wasn't posting her usual daily vlogs on social media, nor was she texting me her typical passive-aggressive, thinly veiled insults. To anyone else, this might seem like a peaceful reprieve. To me, it was the terrifying calm before a catastrophic storm. I knew Chloe was plotting something big. I could feel it deep in my bones. Days before my birthday, I kept running through the various doomsday scenarios in my head. What would she make up this time? Would she fake a sudden, severe medical emergency to drag my parents to the hospital? Would she claim she was in a car accident? Would she tell them I had secretly insulted her deeply and uninvited her behind their backs? Because I knew her so incredibly well, I had already decided to take severe precautions. Over the last year, my relationship with my parents had become so intensely strained that I started rigorously documenting everything. I kept all text messages, backed up all voicemails, and most importantly, I had just installed a state-of-the-art, comprehensive security system in my new house. It was complete with high-definition audio and video cameras at every single entrance and in the main living areas. Primarily, it was a safety measure for a young woman living entirely alone, but I also cynically knew it might serve as a necessary insurance policy against the unpredictable chaos of my own blood relatives. Exactly 2 days before the party, I finally received a text message from my mother. It didn't say, "Happy early birthday," or "We can't wait to see the beautiful new house." It was a single, cold, ominous sentence. "We need to talk. Your father and I are coming over to your house tonight, and we are bringing your sister." My stomach plummeted to the floor, but my resolve hardened like steel. I replied with a simple, emotionless, "Okay." I immediately went to my security app and made absolutely sure my living room and front porch cameras were on, capturing audio and recording directly to the cloud. I brewed a strong pot of coffee, sat down on my brand new velvet sofa, and waited for the executioners to arrive. When the doorbell finally rang an hour later, I took a deep, steadying breath. I opened the front door to find my parents standing there on the porch, looking as solemn and angry as if they were attending a murder trial. Behind them stood Chloe, her eyes red and puffy, clutching a crumpled tissue to her chest like a fragile, wounded bird. She looked absolutely devastated, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. It was a masterclass in theatrical performance. "Come in," I said evenly, stepping aside. They walked into my beautiful new home, not even glancing at the stunning vaulted ceilings, the pristine hardwood floors, or the elegant kitchen I had worked so hard for. They marched straight to the living room and sat down stiffly on the couch. Chloe refused to even look in my direction, burying her face in her hands and letting out a pathetic, dramatic whimper that echoed through the quiet house. "What's going on?" I asked, crossing my arms over my chest and leaning back casually against the kitchen island. My father glared at me with a terrifying mixture of pure disgust and profound disappointment. "How could you do this to your own flesh and blood?" he demanded, his voice trembling with manufactured, self-righteous rage. I blinked, genuinely caught off guard by the intensity. "Do what, exactly?" My mother let out a sharp, bitter, humorless laugh. "Don't you dare play dumb with us. We know exactly how you bought this house. We know everything about your little scheme. I bought this house by working 80 hours a week for the last 3 years and sacrificing my 20s, I said calmly, maintaining eye contact. "So, please, enlighten me. What exactly did I do?" Chloe slowly looked up, her face a perfect, tear-stained portrait of betrayed innocence. "You stole my identity," she whispered, her voice violently cracking. "You took out fraudulent loans in my name. You completely ruined my credit score to buy this extravagant place. And you left me with over $80,000 in defaulted debt." I just stared at her. For a full, agonizing 10 seconds, the room was dead, suffocatingly silent. I had expected a lie. I had expected drama. But identity theft? Major financial fraud? This wasn't just a petty, jealous, sisterly squabble. This was a severe, life-altering criminal accusation. Chloe hadn't just crossed the line. She had gone nuclear. She went to apply for a luxury apartment lease yesterday and was immediately denied, my mother said, her voice rising to a hysterical, shrill pitch. The leasing office told her she had massive, defaulted personal loans. She checked her credit report and it was completely destroyed. And then she remembered you aggressively asking for her social security number a year ago for tax dependency purposes. How could you be so purely evil? You were so jealous of her beauty and her life, so you ruined her financial future to build your own. My father abruptly stood up, pointing a trembling, aggressive finger directly at my face. "The birthday party is canceled. You are going to sign the deed of this house over to us tomorrow morning so we can immediately sell it and pay off the massive debt you forced onto your innocent sister. If you do not agree to this right now, we are walking out that door, going straight to the police precinct, and we will happily watch you go to federal prison for fraud." Chloe let out a loud, tragic, wailing sob, burying her face in my mother's shoulder. My mother stroked her hair, glaring absolute daggers at me. "You are a monster. You are no daughter of mine," she spat venomously. I didn't panic. I didn't cry. I didn't fall to my knees, begging for forgiveness or screaming my innocence. Instead, a slow, cold, deeply satisfied smile began to spread across my face. I honestly couldn't help it. It was the involuntary smile of someone who was comfortably watching a highly arrogant mouse confidently stroll into a meticulously crafted, inescapable trap. $80,000, I repeated slowly, letting the numbers hang in the air. "In loans. Under Chloe's name? Don't you dare stand there and mock her trauma," my father yelled, his face turning purple. I'm not mocking her trauma, I said coolly, walking over to the coffee table and picking up my laptop. I'm just clarifying the intricate details of her brilliant little fictional story. You see, Mom, Dad, the funny thing about buying a house is that you have to go through an incredibly rigorous, exhaustive financial background check. The mortgage lenders investigate every single asset, every line of credit, every tax return, and every penny that goes in and out of your accounts for years. They practically know what kind of toothpaste you buy by the time they approve a mortgage of this massive size. I opened my laptop, typed in my password, and turned the bright screen toward them. My credit is utterly immaculate. My down payment came from a high-yield savings account that I have been directly depositing my paychecks into for 4 consecutive years. The paper trail is completely bulletproof, verified by federal underwriters. But let's talk about Chloe's credit score. Chloe's fake, theatrical crying suddenly stopped dead. She peeked out from behind her perfectly manicured hands, a sudden flicker of genuine, unadulterated panic crossing her wide eyes. A few months ago, I continued, pacing slowly across the living room floor like a prosecutor delivering a closing argument, I noticed someone had tried to open a small, retail credit card using my old mailing address. It flagged on my identity monitoring app because I have severe trust issues. Entirely thanks to my wonderful, supportive upbringing, I didn't just ignore it. I hired a private investigator who specializes specifically in financial fraud and asset tracing to look into it. It turned out to be a simple clerical mistake by the bank, totally unrelated to me. But while the PI was digging around, I paid him a little extra to run comprehensive background and credit checks on my immediate family members, just to ensure no one was trying to use my details. I clicked a locked file on my desktop, entered a secondary password, and pulled up a massive 70-page PDF document. Do you want to know what a licensed private investigator found out about our precious, innocent Chloe? I asked, my voice dropping to a lethal, icy whisper, because he found out exactly where that $80,000 of crippling debt came from. My parents stared at me, physically paralyzed by the shift in my tone. Chloe looked like all the blood had been violently drained from her body. She looked like she was about to throw up on my new rug. Chloe didn't have her identity stolen by me or by anyone else, I said, slamming the laptop down on the table with a loud crack that made them all jump. Chloe has been aggressively taking out predatory payday loans, high-interest personal loans, and secretly maxing out over a dozen credit cards in her own name to fund her designer handbags, her 5-star luxury vacations to Cabo, and her entirely fake lifestyle for the last 2 years. She didn't want to get a real job, and she knew you guys were finally running out of cash to blindly hand her. She is drowning in a financial abyss. And when she realized she couldn't keep the charade up anymore, she decided to use my success as her ultimate scapegoat. She formulated a sick, twisted plan to accuse me of federal fraud, force me to sell my dream house, and use my hard-earned money to bail her out of the massive hole she dug for herself. That's a lie! Chloe suddenly shrieked, her voice shrill, raspy, and filled with wild panic. She made that document up! She typed it herself! She's lying! Mom, don't look at it! Am I asked smoothly, raising an eyebrow. I walked over to a drawer in my kitchen island, pulled out a thick, heavy stack of printed papers, and tossed them carelessly onto the coffee table right in front of my father. Here are the original loan applications, signed electronically from Chloe's personal IP address at your house. Here are the official bank statements showing the loan deposits going directly into Chloe's personal checking account. And here, in vivid detail, are the receipts showing exactly where she spent the stolen money. Prada, Gucci, first-class flights, VIP club tables, and luxury. Car rentals. My father slowly reached forward with trembling, aged hands and picked up the heavy stack of papers. The room was so quiet you could hear the hum of the refrigerator. As he slowly flipped through page after page of undeniable, concrete evidence of Chloe's reckless, selfish, and deceitful spending, the color completely drained from his face. He looked like he was aging 10 years with every page he turned. My mother leaned over to look, her eyes widening in absolute, unfiltered horror as she saw the dates, the merchant names, and the staggering amounts. Chloe lunged forward and tried to snatch the papers out of his hands. "Dad, don't look at those! She forged them! I swear she forged them!" "Stop it, Chloe," my father said, his voice completely hollow, devoid of any of the rage he had carried in just minutes prior. He stared blankly at a specific highlighted page. This is the $50,000 personal loan. It was taken out the exact same week you sat at our kitchen table crying, telling us you desperately needed $10,000 for a business startup course, which we gave you from our retirement savings. "Dad, please, I can explain everything," Chloe stammered, backing away, tears of actual, genuine terror finally spilling down her cheeks. "You've been lying to us," my mother whispered, looking up at her golden child as if she were looking at a terrifying stranger. "You've been draining us dry, stealing our retirement, and you tried to destroy your sister's life. You tried to send her to prison, just to cover it up. I think it's time you all leave my house, I said, my voice completely devoid of emotion. I pointed up at the ceiling corner. The security cameras in my house have recorded this entire interaction in high-definition audio and video, by the way, including your direct threats to extort me for my property. If any of you ever try to contact me again, if you try to show up and ruin my birthday party, or if Chloe so much as breathes my name to another living soul, I will take this mountain of evidence and the security footage straight to the police department myself. Extortion and filing a false police report are felonies. I will press charges, and I will not hesitate. They left without another word. My father looked entirely broken, the weight of his parenting failures crashing down on him. My mother looked physically ill, leaning on my father for support. And Chloe looked like a miserable, cornered rat who had finally been caught in a trap she had set for someone else. My 25th birthday party 2 days later was, without a doubt, the greatest, most liberating night of my entire life. I celebrated my new home, my success, and my newfound freedom surrounded by friends and colleagues who actually loved, respected, and valued me. I danced, I laughed, and I didn't think about my biological family once. It has been over a year now, and I have never heard directly from my parents or my sister again. I blocked their numbers and moved on with my beautiful life. Through the grapevine of extended relatives, I learned the devastating aftermath of that night. My parents, finally broken out of their delusion, completely cut Chloe off financially and refused to bail her out this time. Without their safety net, she was forced to declare bankruptcy at 23 years old. Her credit is permanently ruined. She had to move back into their cramped basement, and from what I hear, they now force her to pay strict monthly rent, which she struggles to afford working a grueling, minimum wage retail job that she absolutely despises. Days before my birthday, I knew my sister would try to make my parents hate me. I just didn't expect her to do such a spectacular, thoroughly permanent job of making them hate her instead.